Welcome to the Prophecy Club. If you are listening to this, just be advised that I'm also making this into a video, and I'm also going to use that as an excuse to why you can look behind me and see my desk is not necessarily all cleaned off, because I just didn't want to take the time to clean it all off. I tend not to make these videos because to me they seem like they're too much trouble. So I didn't go to too much trouble. I decided to just make a video. But today we're going to be talking about shelter at home. And it's going to be a compilation of several different prophecies. But I think that one of the things that we have always assumed is that we must get out of the cities. But I can actually show you several prophecies that says that actually shelter at home, shelter in place, is going to be better than running off to some hiding place in the woods or the mountains or something. So let's get started. First of all, the whole point of this broadcast is to get you to once again do one more solemn assembly. Only this time it's a solemn October assembly. We're going to be doing it on the Devil's Day, Halloween. It's going to be 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening. We're going to ask you to be in your seat by 7:30. Shofars blow at 8 o'clock, and then again at 8 p.m. in the evening. We have moved the venue to our office in Topeka, Kansas. So if you want to see our office, maybe you don't want to see our office, but anyway, it's going to be in the office there. It holds about 375 people there, and we've held a lot of meetings there. So anyway, we invite you to come on to the solemn October assembly, and it's going to be on Halloween. Halloween, and we are going to fast and pray, and this is our last time. I mean, it's 3 days before the election, and based upon the Coverstone dreams, it may very well be really tough in the nation already by then. I think it's going to fill up based upon the things that are going to be happening, and some of which we're about to talk about. Okay, so let's get started. So what is coming in October, generally, and specifically on October 31st, and most of this does come from Dana Coverstone, although not all of it. So the first thing we're talking about is the splitting of Israel, the meteorite splitting America, or maybe even just another meteor. In other words, it doesn't necessarily have to be the big bad one. This comes to us from Dana Coverstone, August 10th. This is only part of what he was shown. He was shown that a finger appeared and pointed to the second week and went down to the third week of the month of October, then pointed and held it on October the 31st, meaning something big and bad is coming on October 31st, unless, now that's a very important thing, unless we pray. I believe all of these Coverstone dreams, all of these are to warn us, yes, that this is coming, but it's coming only if we do not fast and pray. And it also has to be a whole lot of people arrested. In other words, there's got to be people, 2 Chronicles 7:14, my people called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. And here it is, turn from their wicked ways. And as Sundar Salvarez was told, that is not necessarily a big revival. That is cleaning our house up. And I believe that has to do with arresting a lot of these Moloch and Baal worshipers. So he says October 31st. Then the very next phrase says, I saw a rock fly out of the sky and land in a large pond. Now, to you and I, that sounds like what Ephraim Rodriguez saw, which we'll read in a second. It could be the meteor, or maybe it's just another meteor, and maybe it's not as big and bad as what Ephraim Rodriguez was shown. So what was Ephraim Rodriguez shown? He came and spoke to Prophecy Club February 2014. And yes, you can watch the DVD called Catastrophe, Meteor, Tsunami, and Earthquake at watchprophecyclub.com. He was shown in a vision that a large meteor would hit Mona Island just west of Puerto Rico, causing a tsunami 1,000 foot high at Puerto Rico, but it would go up the eastern seaboard anywhere from 200 to 400 foot high, going inland 20 to 100 miles. But where it hits is an earthquake fault running up the Mississippi River Valley and would split the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, and large chunks of California will fall into the ocean all the way up into Alaska. This guy coming in, I thought, well, if he's the only one who sees that, then we can throw it away. So I did some research. Unfortunately, I found more. That also is in a DVD called Meteor Destruction of America, also made February 2014. I found that 6 people saw a large meteor hit near Puerto Rico. 4 of them saw a tsunami hit the East Coast. 6 saw America split into 2 pieces. 3 people saw large chunks of California fall into the ocean. And 9 people, now, by the way, the count is up to 12 people that saw America was split because she split Israel. Well, what is going on right now? We have seen Trump, in his desire to help Israel with the UAE and a couple other nations. He said there's maybe 5 other people that are about to kiss and make up with Israel. Now, I want to think that that's good. I said I want to think that. But in light of this, it might not be, because it could mean here in the next 30 to 60 days, maybe America will split Israel. It could be a meteor. It could be that the underground explosions taking place are in the dumb or the deep underground military bases where the Moloch and the Baal worshippers live and congregate and do all of their bad animal and not animal but human and child sacrificing take place. There's been many reports on the internet that some of these places have been blown up and invaded and lots of bad things happening to really bad people. But it also could just be a warning from God not to touch Israel. But there's been many reports. Thank you for people that send these reports to me at askstan@prophecyclub.com. I've got many emails talking about all of these earthquakes. Over the last just couple of months, they've just really increased. It could be that. I don't know what it is. It could be a meteor, could be underground explosion, could be that God is shaking a stick saying, don't touch Israel. Don't touch Israel. Now, let's go to the mass arrest. The count now is up to 199,613 sealed indictments. I saw federally elected officials' faces, says Coverstone. State governors, agency leaders, this is a summarized version here. I had wicks coming out of their heads like firecrackers. During the second week of October, as in the next 10 days, those wicks all exploded all at the same time. Now, what is that? I don't think that you can get a bunch of people have some kind of explosion in their head all at the same time. To me, only thing that makes sense based upon the prophecies would be they're probably going to be arrested, and I think that's probably all at the same time, meaning that probably within a week, 10 to 14 days. Again, that's just a guess, but that's based upon the prophecies. That's the most likely thing we're talking about. Said he saw the heads blow up all at the same time, yet the people were still alive. So, not some kind of assassination or whatever like that. It is probably arrest. So in the Coverstone sees violent protesters attacking peaceful protesters mean that they're being pushed harder for more blood. Due to the arrests? Well, maybe. Maybe not. However, Donald Trump just put out this tweet. He says, I fully authorize the total declassification of any and all documents pertaining to the single greatest political crime in American history, the Russia hoax. Likewise, the Hillary Clinton email scandal, no redactions. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. The arrests, my brothers and sisters, are in progress. This is simply the early phases of the arrests and why the arrests are taking place, being released. He goes on to say the House and the Senate should immediately approve $25 billion of airline payroll support, $135 billion for Paycheck Protection Program for small business. Both of these will be fully paid with unused funds from the CARES Act. We have this money. I will sign now. If I'm sent a standalone bill from stimulus checks, about $1,200, they will go out to our great public immediately. I'm ready to sign right now. Are you listening, Nancy? What's going on? Why doesn't Nancy want Americans to be blessed? Because she wants trouble, because then people can hang that around Donald Trump's neck saying don't vote for him because look at the economy. Nevertheless, I mean, I believe it was the left, let's put it that way, that released the virus. It wasn't an accident. It's a man-made virus. And the primary reason is because they want to keep Donald Trump from being president again. That's their primary motivation. That's what the prophets say too. Now, what's the going on with the declassification? What he's really doing here is this is the beginning phases of a bunch of people about to be arrested. Nancy Pelosi, this is another Donald Trump tweet. Nancy Pelosi is asking for $2.4 trillion to bail out poorly run, high-crime Democrat states. Money that is in no way related to COVID-19. We made a very generous offer. She is not negotiating in good faith. I'm rejecting the request and looking to the future of a country. I've instructed my representatives to stop negotiating till after the election. Why is that important? If you jump down here to the bottom, it says Terry Bennett. said that when the checks from our government stop coming to the people, the chaos will ensue. That is the stopping of the checks. Now, I always thought there was some kind of normal, like even Dimitri said he thought it would be something like they stopped paying the welfare. Well, this is sort of in that ballpark, but not exactly. But it is checks that are normally supposed to come from the government, except for Nancy Pelosi is not letting them go out because they want to hang it around Donald Trump's neck and make him look bad so he won't win the election. But it is also going to cause major problems. Now, let's look at shelter at home. Cities of refuge selected from Coverstone Dreams. Now, these are only selected parts of his dreams. I don't have time to go through the whole thing. He said, I saw protests taking place in the month of October. I saw them intensify. Peaceful protesters and bystanders became part of violent protests. I saw the violent protesters attack and assault the peaceful protesters, saying, look, if you're not doing this our way, if you're not doing enough damage, we're going to beat you up. And they apparently were not only beaten up, but some were even killed. I saw them turn to the elderly people. So they're coming after the elderly people. What does that do? That drives the elderly people into their homes. That's a major point. I don't think the way to prepare for this particular trouble is running to the hills, running to the woods. Instead, I think that, again, what Coverstone was shown, people are sheltering in place. I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to go off to some other place somewhere off in the hills someplace that I don't know. I'm going to stay right here. I'm not going to turn my home and what's in my home over to whomever wants to come into it. I'm going to stay here and defend my property. That's what I plan to do. Anyway, so going on. I saw fires everywhere, he says. I saw people being rounded up. Chinese, Russian soldiers on the ground being told to go here and go there and round people up. I saw blue helmets. All of this, my brothers and sisters, I believe, does not have to come to pass. It doesn't have to come to pass as hard as we're seeing. I believe we can pray a softening, a delay, what we can't pray away. In other words, I believe we can pray for a softening and a delay of what we can't pray away. But if we don't pray, yes, Trump has got to do his part, round up these bad guys. That is, turn from the wicked ways. But we've also got to pray. We've got to fast and pray. That's why I'm calling people to come to Topeka, Kansas for one more day, 12 hours more of fasting and prayer on the Devil's Day, on Halloween. And we got to do this because we've got to pray a softening and delay if we can't pray it away. I saw blue helmets. I mean, it can get really, really bad if we don't pray this away. I saw absolute chaos, he says. Then the fist punch on the November calendar of 2020. November is going to get really, really bad, but it's going to ramp up in October. It's about to ramp up, according to what I'm looking at here, this coming Monday, or Sunday or Monday. This next week should be the start of all this. That is, unless we were able to pray a softening or a delay. And I pray that we have. He says, I saw churches surrounded by mobs of people yelling, shut it down, burn it down. I saw pulpits being beaten up and chopped and burnt. What is that? Again, that's going to force people into their homes. My point that I'm trying to make in this broadcast, I don't think the best way, and I'm not telling you what to do. I mean, you got to do what the Lord is telling you to do. Okay, let me make that clear. But if there's a question, whether you want to run to the hills or the mountains someplace, run off someplace and hide, or if you want to stay in your own home, I'm just telling you, I believe the prophecies are saying shelter in place. I believe the prophecies are directing us to stay where we are and get prepared where we are, and that's what I'm doing, which I'll talk about in a moment. I continue to see shuttered properties. People in homes. Look at what the prophecy is saying. I saw people in homes wearing coats, closed curtains. In other words, they're sheltering in place, my brothers and sisters. When I looked at the people looking out of their curtains, I see more of this dark gray snow stuff, which is probably talking about the suitcase nukes. I'll get that in a second. It's saying we should protect ourselves where we are. I saw headlines reading, nationwide outages plague the Southwest. It's not going to be just Southwest. Apparently, it's going to be all over. But it's the whole electrical grid. We have to assume the worst, prepare for the best. And maybe I should say prepare for the worst, assume the best, pray for the best. But we have to assume the electrical grid is going to go down nationwide. So if it goes down, what happens? Well, obviously the lights go off, and then about 3 days later, everything in the refrigerator and the freezer is now all room temperature. Also, within a day or so, there's no more water coming out the faucets. And since we don't know whether the natural gas is being forced down the pipes by electricity or if it's being forced down the pipes by the pressure coming out of the ground, we can probably assume the natural gas is turned off. That means you have no way to heat your home. You have no electricity to heat your home. What I'm saying is you got to think these things through. It's time, brothers and sisters, to think it through. We must pray. We must prepare. I saw America with lights flickering. That's probably your suitcase nukes again. That's probably it's going to knock down our electrical grid. I saw vultures with food hanging out of the mouth. Why? Because all of the refrigerators went down. All of the food reaches room temperature, so we gorge for a few days, and then we have to throw it out, which is why he also saw birds eating them. My point is, I personally am sheltering in place. I'm not running to some hiding place. They saw rotten food tossed out and birds eating it. I believe that you need to be prepared to stay in your home for 5 months. Why 5 months? Because it's October, November, December, January, February, March, April. That's 5 months. I didn't count it right, but that's 5 months. Shelter at home. Ask yourself this. You can't live more than 3 minutes without air, so that's number one. You got to make certain you have clean air. So suitcase nukes go off. You got radioactive dust in the air. It's like powder. It's every place. Do you have something to filter it out? You should have some face filters, and they probably need to be beyond what these little things that they're just wearing having to do with COVID. I mean, something that can do a serious filtering out of radioactive dust. Second thing is ask yourself about water. I recommend the Berkey. It's the only thing I recommend. Yes, we carry them at prophecyclub.com, which, by the way, I got a call from our office. We just got a new shipment of Berkeys in. And because there's various things, you need to just call. If you want in on this, call 785-266-1112. I'll repeat it, 785-266-1112. We have Berkeys just arrived. Also, we got like 300 potassium iodate pills, and both of those are pretty much out nationwide. I haven't done a thorough research, but I don't know if anybody even has them in stock out there. So, we just got them in. Matter of fact, that's the same thing with long-term storage food, too. I just talked to heavensharvest.com, and they didn't get a new shipment, but they've got food in. And he is also pressuring his food company, trying to get them to send some more food, too, because pretty much as fast as it comes in, Prophecy Club, because he's only selling through Prophecy Club people, pretty much. And so, anyway, it's a good place to get good food. Okay, so air. Got to have air. Second thing, can't go more than about 3 days without water. You have to have water. The number one thing that kills people in an emergency is contaminated water. And if you got a water filter, you got to also have some kind of water. So do you have some kind of a big water tank? Do you have a large store of water? Don't count on using the rainwater because the suitcase nukes go off. The water that comes down is then radiated, so you can't necessarily count on using rainwater. You've got to have actual water stored in your home, away from the radiation. You need to have food, and that's food beyond what you find at the grocery store. Because, like, for example, the Heaven's Harvest food, you just make boiling water, you pour in out of the packet, stir, and you got food that your children and your wife will eat. Good food, and yes, you use the promo code there, Heaven's Harvest, promo code STAN. Also, if you want to get the EMP, the promo code there is Prophecy. We'll get to that. So I recommend 5 months of long-term emergency non-refrigerated food. Now let's talk about the suitcase nukes. I've talked about them a lot, so I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail, but just in case someone's watching that has not heard about them, here's a brief overview. So in 1998, Stanislav Lunev, the highest-ranking Russian military officer to ever defect from Russia, made a Prophecy Club DVD saying that 50 of the original 250 lost in Russia suitcase nuclear bombs had been smuggled in the United States. Since then, I've found 5 others that confirm his story. Dmitry, Michael Boldea, several other people. Then Dana Coverstone comes along. The angel says in so many words, those suitcase nukes are going to be detonated in October or November. Gives a picture of late November and December with them going off, which I won't go into the details. Also, next thing is when the suitcase nukes go off, It fries every computer chip. 5 nanoseconds fries the computer chip. It overloads it. All of them. Cars, trucks, buses, TVs, cell phones. That means all of the electrical grid, anything that has a computer chip to it, does not work anymore unless it is EMP protected. Now, EMP Shield says that they have devices by a military testing facility, and they say that 100% protection can be afforded from solar flares, lightning, power surges, and nuclear detonations. And you get a hold of them by going to empshield.com. empshield.com. Use the promo code PROPHECY. You get a $50 gift card, and it helps Prophecy Club. Main thing is you want to be able to have electricity. So let me refresh so far. Air. You need to have air face filters. Water. Berkey filters. They just arrived. We just got 300 potassium iodate pills also. Now let's talk about what is coming in November based upon Coverstone. He said he saw Americans in emergency shelters, and there seemed to be a snow on the ground, a dirty gray, almost like ash. He even says ash, even though he had never heard of the suitcase nukes when I called him about them. Matter of fact, he'd never heard of the name Dimitri Duduman. He said he saw people huddled together and shivering. So that's another thing. Do you have some kind of a heat? For example, I got a few of these ventless propane heaters, 3,000 BTU. I've also got the little gizmo that hooks it up to a propane bottle. So if our electricity goes off, I will still be able to at least heat part of my house so that we'll have some kind of heat in our house. I also have ordered a generator, which, here, I can talk about that here in just a second. Okay. So this is November and December. Now, let me skip on down. You can read all of the details here. I saw people standing in long, long food lines throughout the nation, not in cars. Why weren't they in cars? Because all the computer chips in the cars have been fried. I saw ships and ports, both east and west, just sitting idle. Nothing was moving in ships worldwide. Now, if there is nothing moving in ships, that means there's nothing at the grocery stores. That means there's nothing in the faucets. There's nothing in the electrical outlets. That means, once again, my recommendation is you prepare to shelter in place 5 months. Let me say it again. Prepare 5 months if you can't or you shouldn't leave your house because of gangs, roving gangs out there. With that sort of thing going on, you don't want to leave your house. I'm trying to warn you. As a brother and as a friend, I'm trying to warn you. My suggestion is that you prepare to shelter in place. Ask yourself, I can't leave the 4 walls of my house for 5 months. Do I have everything it takes? Do you have water? Do you have a way to heat that water? Do you have something to put in that water to eat? Do you have food? Do you have water? Do you have water filters? Do you have everything? And understand that your neighbors are probably going to come knocking on your door, so you want to have a little bit more for them too. Good time to witness to them. Byron Searle said this, February 26, 2020, he said, I had a vision, and I saw riots taking place, parking lots jammed, packed with vehicles, corridors left wide open, people all over wildly running about. I watched people running as fast as they could, almost every direction, screaming, shouting hysterically. I was observing complete and utter chaos and hysteria. Not one person was calm. All were running about, yelling, screaming, and crying. I asked, what's going on? The local National Guard were planning martial law order, advising everyone, here it is, look at those words. Stay in your home. Stay in your home. Stay in your home. Let that ring into our heart, brothers and sisters. Stay in our homes. He told me that nearly all of the store shelves were empty. Food, water, other goods. He said that people in the stores were acting like crazed rabid animals, throwing cans of food at each other, stealing each other's carts. He said I went in, it was complete chaos, fighting, people hollering at the cashiers because their credit cards wouldn't work, people attacking each other, stealing their food. Yeah, in America. Stay at home. My plan is to stay at home. He said we're like a pack of ravenous wolves or frenzied sharks fighting for food in the stores. People have begun fighting back to the stockroom, trying to go back to the stockroom to get the food. I mean, it was crazy. I saw some people in local churches, terrified looks on their faces, crying because they were too late to get anything prepared. I asked, well, why do you prepare for this? After all, many watchmen have been warning for years of what was to come. They said, I thought we would be gone before anything bad happened. I should have listened. pre-trib rapture. I saw National Guard vehicles arriving, quickly swooping in, shooting everybody holding a weapon. The clampdown had begun, and no one would be allowed on the street. Everyone must stay inside, stay inside, stay inside. You getting that? Stay inside. Stay inside. Don't go to the mountain. Don't go to the woods unless you know God has told you to do that. By the way, don't take my advice when God tells you to do something else. Do what God tells you to do. As this vision ended, I heard the Lord say, why have you not prepared? That's what Coverstone said too. Those that do not prepare will be wanting. In other words, wishing they had, my brothers and sisters. Wishing they had. July 11, 2020, Maurice Sklar. The Lord says in the next 5 months, how many? Same thing, 5 months. In the next 5 months leading to the election, there's going to be a coordinated plan, very deliberate step-by-step plan to take over the United States by the communists. The whole point is to stop President Trump from being elected. Democrats know they will lose the election. There is an all-out attempt to overthrow the U.S. government. They're willing to destroy America as we know it in order to stop Trump in America. I agree. The Lord says we must pray and fast. Well, we got to do more than that. We also have to clean up our nation. That has to do with the arrest. He says, I believe God can save America. He wants us to stand right now. I'm going to say again, prepare 5 months. 5 months. Prepare to stay in your home. Now let's talk about death at the dollar. Coverstone again. Then I saw a $100 bill the size of a flag hanging on the flagpole, burning on the corner as it was being lowered like a flag, lowered like at the end of the day. People had on their hands over their hearts, were crying because the god of money was being lowered. The dollar had lost its value, and it burned until only about a third of it was left, meaning 2/3 of the dollar value, which is the same thing Maurice Sklar said, is gone. In other words, the value of the dollar means everything costs 3 times more. Instead of a $6 hamburger, well, 3 times 6, that's $18. $18 for a $6 hamburger, except for every place. Not $2 a gallon, $6 a gallon for gasoline. Many people celebrating while others devastated. The value of the American dollar was dying. I heard someone playing taps in the background. You remember Warren was told silver will skyrocket far more than gold. I suggest you have a handful of gold coins and a handful of silver coins. Silver coin, one of those ought to buy you a tank of gas. Might take 2. And then a gold coin might buy your way out of the country. But you want to have about a handful of both, which, by the way, I recommend that you go to cornerstoneassetmetals.com, cornerstoneassetmetals.com. When you call them, mention Prophecy Club, as that helps Prophecy Club too. Now let's go to Daniel Daves. We had him in as, a missionary to Puerto Rico, someplace like that. He said he had a dream. He seemed to be downtown Dallas, and a government official appeared and said, ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. America as you have known it has ceased to exist. That is probably about to happen. All property lines have been dissolved. Why? Because the dollar lost 2/3 of its value. And the U.S. dollar is worthless. When the people heard this announcement, they began to panic. Then the scene changed. I was at a gas station, and he said I would no longer take dollars. Instead, they had to barter for like chainsaws and things like that. He said the store manager took whatever he wanted to give people gas. I'm saying it's not a good idea to get outside of your home. It's a good idea to shelter in place. Don't think run. Think hunker down, batten down, prepare to stay right there in your home. Might get bad outside, but in my opinion, unless the Lord tells you something different. Now let's talk about small churches kneeling and praying. Coverstone again. I saw small churches, small groups of people kneeling and praying, wrestling in prayer with the spirit of the age, kneeling and praying, protected by bubbles of safety. What? That's how we get protection. We get protection in the Lord. These were faithful core of the church, not been compromised by sin. They were relentless attacking them. They stayed faithful. They were in the heat of the battle. They were praying. They were fighting. They were wrestling in prayer with the spirit of the age. They were fighting to stay faithful, but there were very few. But that did not bother them. It continued to fight. Even though they had entered through the narrow way, this group never stood up to fight. In other words, the other people are saved. They're Christians, but they don't fight. They don't fight spiritually. They don't fight any other way. PreTrib Bubble busted. Coverstone says, not directly, but indirectly, says the PreTrib bubble is about to be busted. Now, somebody emailed me and says, well, how can you mention Coverstone when he's pre-trib? Well, it's just like Maurice Clark. He's pre-trib. Them being pre-trib doesn't bother me. I know I got the truth. Okay, so just because they hadn't found that part of the truth, that doesn't mean they're not hearing from God. God talks. I mean, he talked to me when I was still a sinner. Okay, so he talks to everybody if they're listening. The problem is not whether they're listening. The problem is what God says. So he says, I saw puffed up pastors and prophets wearing expensive suits, preaching against the idea of any coming persecution, promising prosperity, health, and wealth, and only good things. But finally, skipping part of it, they were standing completely naked. Money started flying out of them, the money they had made with all of the prosperity prophecies and ministries, or I will say pre-trib. They bit through their tongues. They tried to reach out, grab their tongues, but they were just beyond their reach because they couldn't pull back their prosperity words. In other words, now they were having to reap what they had sown. They had lied to their people for all these years, maybe knowingly, maybe unknowingly. But nevertheless, they still preached a lie, and now it was coming back to them, which, by the way, I'd recommend you get my new book, How PreTrib Won. In that book, I will show you absolutely positive proof that there is no pre-trib, there is no pre-wrath, there is no mid-trib, none of that. No one is going anywhere. No one's getting sucked into the air to avoid anything. After the burning of the tares, after Armageddon, then he gathers his fruit, his tare, or his wheat into the barn. Then the scene changed back to those who were praying. The warfare was still tense, but their strength was obvious in those who were praying. Now let's talk about the release. And Shane Warren talks about it too. Talks about it, by the way, in the same order. But if I cover all of that, I'd be here 2 hours. Then I saw this big billboard saying Passover 2021. Now, what's Passover 2021? Well, it says a lot of things. If you go back to the days of Israel, the days of Moses, on Passover, it was the sins of Israel being forgiven with the blood on the doorpost. It was Moses and the children of Israel being released from the nation of sin and being brought into the promised land 3 days later. They were given gold, silver, and raiment in great abundance. I believe today it's going to be the release of inventions that have been hidden, cures been hidden, a whole new financial system according to finalwakeupcall.info, great prosperity if we can pray past this. That's the reason we got to meet. Now, I know, everybody's saying, well, you're going to live stream, and I'll just join you on live stream. But don't you remember Coverstone said that we have to assemble? Notice that Jesus didn't say, hang around Jerusalem. No, they were all in one room with one accord. They were praying together, my brothers and sisters. In other words, in this case, yes, we have 1,400 people on a fast track team. We do the same fast, the same prayer, the same date. That's very powerful. But what the Lord is saying in this case, that's not enough. In this case, we must assemble. Now, I was hoping and praying, just like you were, that all of these prayers for September would do it. But then when Coverstone comes out with this other dream, on September 26th was after the solemn assembly, and it was basically saying, you didn't reach the mark. You didn't pass the line. You didn't catch the ball. You didn't make the touchdown. You didn't get it all done. So now we're doing another one, just like the Lord told Leslie and confirmed through me. So what Passover 2021, in my opinion, is, I think it is the stopping of this storm. I think it is the release of a spiritual blessing, great miracles with inventions, with cures, financial system, if we pray. Passover 2021, when is that? That's March 27th. How far is that away from today? Guess what? It's 5 months. 5 months. Passover 21. And now look what he says. He repeats it twice. Big things are coming for the world. Big things are coming for the world. I do not think that's the tribulation. I think that is the release. That's the great release of the Spirit that fills sports stadiums, that brings in the masses of people into the kingdom. That is what we've been looking for and praying for. Then the white figure, the angel, appeared again and said, do not stop bracing, for the storm will not pass until I stop the storm. The storm will not stop, or will not pass until I stop the storm. It just indirectly told us when the storm is going to stop. The storm is going to stop on Passover 2021. That's what it's saying. The storm will not stop or will not pass until I stop the storm. So brace yourselves and don't look back. He's saying that at least up to this point, you and I have not prayed the storm away. I'll say it again. Based upon Coverstone's dream on the 26th, that is showing the battle between the evil and the good army, based upon that dream, we have not crossed the finish line yet. Based upon that dream, that many, maybe even most, maybe even all of the things that we're given to Coverstone are still on the way. But he's saying that the storm, we can still bring a softening or delay, but we have to meet. So what do? That's the reason we've called this big meeting. Those who refuse to get ready will be wanting in the end. The reason I'm doing this particular video is to encourage you to get prepared. Yes, we have to battle spiritually, but we also need prepared, and prepared for this day means shelter in your house, unless God tells you to do otherwise. You follow what God tells you to do. I'm not necessarily saying my suggestions are all the best ones. However, whatever God tells you to do, you do that. But if you haven't got a direct order, my suggestion is shelter in your house. And I do not have time to go into that. I see that. I'm going to skip that. I think I had that in there. What are we doing here? Okay. So let me summarize. You have to have, you can only go 3 minutes without air. So the first thing we need to think about is, can we filter air so we have clean air? Do we have water to last beyond, 5 months of water? And I don't mean just a water filter. If you got no water, you're still in trouble. So you have to have water, 5 months of water. And then 5 months of food, long-term storage food. Remember, heavensharvest.com, use the promo code STAN. Think about heat. Again, I've got some BTU ventless propane heaters I just got out in the garage just a couple of days ago, and I'm about to get the 100-pound propane tanks any day now. We're on the order. Also, I ordered a Honda 7000 kilowatt inverter generator, and I've also got about 45 gallons of gasoline stored up, which I calculate should last me a couple of months. That will give me a couple of months to eat out the refrigerator and the freezer of all of the food. And also maybe run a few, also I have EMP protection, EMP on the house, EMP on the cars. So when nobody else's car runs, when nobody else has electricity, and also get EMP for my generator too. So I should be okay. I even got, 6 months of dog food. No, I don't plan to eat the dog food, but I don't want to have the dogs eating people food. So we got plenty of dog food. Also, if you want to have this EMP Shield, you can go to empshield.com, use the promo code PROPHECY to order those. So let me summarize. Think about air, water, food, heat, electricity, and EMP. Think about those things. We're looking at, now I'm making this, this is on the 7th, I'm recording this. So this is a Wednesday. So this coming Sunday, in the next 2 weeks, we can watch and see. Hopefully, we've been able to pray a softening. I would love to think we prayed a delay, but at least a softening. But we're going to really watch October 31, Halloween. And we're going to gather in Topeka, Kansas. We're going to bring our shofars, and once again, we're going to pray. I don't like it doing it either. I mean, I was exhausted after the last one. But I want to see my nation continue. So that's what we have to do, and that's what we're going to do. Go to watchmanstrumpet.com. Get signed up. watchmanstrumpet.com, Topeka, Kansas, Halloween 2020. We're going to fast 12 hours. That means no food. Yes, you drink water, coffee, take your prescription. Don't hurt yourself. We're going to do 30 minutes praise, worship, morning and evening, a couple of guest ministers bringing talks, but it is mostly about a 5-minute open microphone where you can stand up in front of your other brothers and sisters and pray. Pray like there's no tomorrow, just like we did at the solemn September assembly. Now we're having a solemn October assembly. watchmanstrumpet.com. And it's 12 hours of fasting and prayer. You go to watchmanstrumpet.com. Topeka, Kansas, right in the center of the country, lower hotel and gasoline, food prices. So go check out watchmanstrumpet.com. It'll tell you all about it. However, what you can do is share this with all of your friends. Click like, share, subscribe, and If you do want to help support us, there's a link below that you can click on that. Thank you, and God bless.